welcome. This is the Dalles Area Chamber of Commerce Community Affairs. My name is Alex Hughes. I'm the Business Development and Membership Director here. We'll go around the room. So let's start with Mr. Scott McKay. Good morning. Oh, actually, Scott, I just read in the chat your microphone. Okay. Well, this is Mr. Scott McKay, Age Plus Circles of Care. He's a tremendous volunteer in our community. Rob Garrett, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Alex and Dawson. I'm Rob Garrett, Mid-Columbia Senior Center in the Dalles. I took Scott McKay's job, so that gives you Scott McKay's background as a director of the Senior Center, and just Mid-Columbia Senior Center in the Dalles.
Perfect. Thanks, Rob. David Peters, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Dawson and everybody else. Yeah, I'm Dave Peters with the Mid-Columbia Housing Authority here in the Dalles. We serve the 5 counties, 3 in Oregon, 2 in Washington. Also Columbia Cascade Housing, which is in essence a nonprofit side of things. It's actually a standalone entity, but it is sort of associated with the Housing Authority. And we do numerous programs, including the $1.35 million we got in down payment funding recently. We are also trying to finish up a home repair program here in Oregon side. We're just starting one on the Washington side. We make minor home repairs to people. That's along with all the other counseling we do, foreclosure counseling, home ownership counseling. Thanks.
Thanks, David. Brian, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Brian Tuck, retired.
All right. Thanks for being here, Brian. Dan Spots, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Alex. Dan Spots, Columbia Gorge Community College. Dawson, nice to put a face. We've been emailing back and forth here. Thank you for everything you're doing. Good to have you here. Real fast update on aviation maintenance. We've had some really interesting politics this past week. So recall that Higher Education Coordinating Commission has been reluctant to reimburse training for the program if we base it at Columbia Gorge Regional Airport, a City of the Dalles airport located in the state of Washington. That Washington state part being the complication from the HEC's perspective. Senator Bonham very graciously introduced SB 482 to basically note the unusual circumstances, City of the Dalles owning an airport with Clackamas County, our training program taking place there, and requiring that the HEC recognize that training. So we had a hearing last week, and we are scheduled for a vote. I don't know the day of the vote yet, but there's a workshop work session on this and many other pieces of legislation this afternoon at 3 o'clock. We'll see where that goes. The interesting part is that Treasure Valley Community College has a similar situation with other programming. I think it's a helicopter flight, I'm not sure, based in Idaho. And they've been trying to resolve the same thing. So Senator Findley got into the mix, and it got a little bit complicated yesterday, trying to figure out, okay, do we pull the bill? The HEC now comes forward and says, oh, we can do this, no worries. Well, we've been struggling with them for 2 years now. So evidently it took some threat of legislation to get them off the dime. I'm sorry to be a little bit pessimistic there. But we are keeping the legislation on track at this point. So our preference would be to keep SB 482, and appreciation to all who offered testimony on that. We had a lot of good testimony. Anyhow, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Casey Cook, good morning. How you doing? Casey might be a little bit busy this morning.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, awesome. I got it sorted out just in the nick of time. If anyone else is having issues, maybe go into your audio settings and just make sure that your headsets and stuff are actually the one that your Zoom is connecting to. But anyway, my name is Casey. I am a mom first and foremost, but I'm also owner of Casey Business Solutions. Relatively new, but my goal is business relationship development and back office systems mostly. But yeah, I'll pretty much be quiet because I'm tending my kids at the same time.
Thanks for being here, Casey. Appreciate it. And I see Stacy Cooper is in another meeting. I see in the chat. She'll be listening in. I see we have Miss Stephanie Bowen. Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. And Casey, I just want to say it's good to see another mom at one of these early morning meetings because I too am on my way to bus drop off this morning. So always momming first. I'm Stephanie Bone. I'm with North Wasco County School District. And I'll just give you guys a quick cliff notes of our last bond update. We presented office architecture as well as 2 members from our community advisory committee presented at our March board meeting. I know many of you guys have heard me talk about a May bond. That timeline has now been pushed back to November to give the Community Advisory Committee a little bit more time to rally some community support, as well as give the board a little bit more time to consider what type of bond package to go after. The general consensus from that group was to propose moving forward with a $140 million bond that would include the new high school replacement at the Wetonka site, as well as some additional upgrades to capacity, so student capacity sizing and athletic field updates at the Wetonka site. We are now slated with the pushback timeline to have the board make a motion on what size of package to actually move forward with in either May or early June. It is entirely possible that the board could choose to move forward with only a $120 million bond at that time too. And we continue to do some feasibility and community surveying between now and that time. So stay tuned for May, but it looks like at this point we will have a bond on the November election.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Stephanie. Appreciate it. And with that, Dawson, good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Alex?
I'm doing all right. So, tell us what's on the docket. What's on Representative Smith's agenda here? What's going on?
Do you think, Alex, it would be appropriate maybe for me to tell you guys a little bit about Rep Smith, or do we think we should just jump right in? Okay, perfect. Yep. First, if it's all right, I was going to say just a tiny bit about me. My name is Dawson Quinton. I am Representative Smith's Legislative Director. I go by that title. I'm kind of like the Chief of Staff, but it's mostly just me here in the office, so it'd kind of be like I'm the chief of me. I was raised in Grant County, and now I live up in Representative Smith's district in Boardman. And so that district, his district, House District 57, he's an Oregon State Representative. He has been since he was elected in 2000 and sworn in 2001. So of the 90 members of the Oregon legislature, he is the longest serving member, serving his 12th term right now. So the House, they do 2-year terms. The senators do 4-year terms. His House District, the House District 57 starts up in Milton-Freewater in Umatilla County and then it kind of goes down, doesn't do, Weston or Athena, but it does take in Helix and Adams, if you know those, and then it kind of just comes this way. Doesn't do Pendleton, that's Representative Bobby Levy, and then basically it hits Hermiston and Umatilla, and then it does the entirety of Morrow, Gilliam, Sherman, Wheeler, and then it goes into Wasco County, hits right up to the city limits of the Dalles. My kind of joke is I think there's people probably in the Dalles that could go throw a rock in their backyard and that would hit Rep Smith's district, but they don't live in his district. Then it goes down, hits Dufur, Ty Valley, Wamick, Maupin, and then he represents the entirety of the Warm Springs tribal nation. So he technically represents tiny pieces of Marion, Clackamas County, since the tribal nation's boundaries are irrespective of the county boundaries. So I don't think there's anybody that lives out there, very small pieces, but he does represent now 9 counties technically, which is pretty wild. But anyway, he lives in Heppner. He's got 5 kids, a wife, Sherry. She sometimes comes and helps me here in the office. I'm in his office right now in Salem. And like I said, he's on his way back from Washington, D.C. right now. We started session on the 17th of January, and we will go until, theoretically, we constitutionally have to end this session on June 25th at midnight. That is what we call constitutional sine die. Sine die is how they refer to when they adjourn the session without a date. So every day when they're in session, when Representative Smith's here, he adjourns them as the longest serving member, and so he gets up and he adjourns them until a specific date and time. So he'll make a motion to, today he'll make a motion to go until Monday at 11 o'clock when they adjourn. Anyway, so we're now kind of in mid-March. So last week was kind of our first big deadline. So March 17th was what we call the first chamber deadline. So this meant that bills that are moving right now, they had to be scheduled in their first chamber. So if they were a House bill in the House and if they're Senate bill in the Senate, they needed to be scheduled for a public hearing. So for people to be able to testify on it, and for a work session for them to actually vote it out. It just had to be scheduled. Didn't have to happen by the 17th, but it had to be scheduled. So the next deadline is April 4th. By April 4th, those bills do need to have had a public hearing and a work session to be moved to the House floor and then to be sent to the second chamber. So a House bill to the Senate or a Senate bill to the House. So that was kind of our big push with last week, was making sure some of our bills got hurt or are going to get scheduled. Some of them did. I actually testified for the first time on Monday since Representative Smith was out. One of his bills was fortunate enough to be to get a public hearing, and so I went and testified on his behalf. So that was pretty interesting. Representative Smith is on 6 committees. So he's on he's mostly on financial and revenue committees. So he's on the revenue committee in the House. He is on the joint tax expenditures. So everyone that's on the revenue committee joins everyone that's on the Senate Finance and Revenue Committee to a joint tax expenditures committee. So they'll actually are just getting started with their meetings. They'll have a meeting tomorrow. And basically all they're doing right now anyway is looking at extending sunsets. So what that means is here at the Capitol, they set for tax exemptions, and for tax credits, they'll set the program to be for a certain number of years. So they'll run out to make sure, kind of put sideboards on it to make sure the legislation is effective. And so they'll be hearing some just sunset extensions. So all they'll do is just they'll go, you know what, this program was effective for the state and what we're trying to accomplish, and we'll move the deadline out. So that's kind of what's going on in joint tax expenditures. Revenue up today is actually one of Representative Smith's bill. It's there's a economic development tool that the Business Oregon has called Strategic Investment Programs, and him and the chair of the committee are just working on upgrading some of that legislation. It was originally proposed in 1993, so they're just doing some technical fixes and some updates, since it's been 30 years now. He's also on the big Ways and Means Committee, the full committee. So there's 19 members on that, and that's essentially how that's how the state spends the money. So they're the budget committee. So he's the co-vice chair of that. So there's the big chairs. From the House side is Representative Tana Sanchez, and from the Senate side is Senator Elizabeth Steiner. And then there's 3 vice chairs. So there's Representative David Gomberg from the coast. He's a vice chair from the House side. Representative Smith, so Greg is a vice chair, and then on the Senate side, there's 1 vice chair of Fred Gerard. Anyway, and then Representative Smith's also on the 2 subcommittees of Ways and Means. So he is on the subcommittee for general government. He's actually the co-chair of that. And what that committee does is they hear the governor's budget, the Speaker of the House his budget, the Senate President's budget, the Department of Administrative Services budget. So all of the kind of real technical administrative budgets around the state. They hear the Department of Revenue's budget, the Department of Corrections budget. For instance, though, like the Business Oregon's budget, that had public hearings just yesterday. That was in a different subcommittee, though. And then Representative Smith is also on the subcommittee of Ways and Means called Capital Construction. And so that's how they spend all of the capital projects, so all the state-funded projects around the state, that they're the ones who see all of those. And then finally, he's also on the Legislative Administration Committee. That doesn't meet very regularly. It's very ad hoc. And basically, that's just essentially, Representative Smith puts it this way, that committee keeps the lights on at the Capitol. So basically that they actually handle they're like the little executive committee for the Capitol, the little, Capitol itself, just making sure, little staffing concerns and all of that. The little budget that the Capitol has. So that's what they're doing. So Representative Smith's work really doesn't start getting going until May 17th. That's the revenue forecast. So that's they have those quarterly, but this one hits us right near the end of session. So it gives us the final sense of starting to lock in these budgets. And so for the state of Oregon, we have a biennial budgets, which means that they're for 2 years. So at the end of this session, they will pass the 23-25 budget. And so it'll go until 25. And so we're in what's right now called the long session. So on odd numbered years. So like this year, 2023, we will go from, like I said, January until June. And then next year in 2024, we will actually just go for a 35-day session starting in February. And so we did that last year. And basically what that is for little budget fixes that need to be done and a couple of technical fixes for bills. And actually in that short session, there's a bill limit, meaning each legislator can only propose 2 bills. And so it's a very quick session, and not a lot gets done, but that's the purpose, is just really for technical fixes and things that we need. When they're not in session, Representative Smith, along with about the same 19 members that are on Ways and Means, it varies a little bit. They're on what's called the Joint Emergency Board. And so sometimes the state's gets presented with situations where they are not in session, but they need to fund a project, maybe there's been a natural disaster or what have you. And so that they have that committee, and they're able to meet and actually allocate funding just through the committee itself. And it doesn't need to go through both chambers to vote for, all 60 members in the House and all 30 members in the Senate. And so our work really hasn't gotten started too much, but there's a couple of bills that we're tracking and Representative Smith's working on. So I thought I'd mention a few of those. Right now, he's working on a rural infrastructure package, and it's with he's doing that in tangent with Representative Owens from Eastern Oregon, Representative Gomberg, who I mentioned earlier, he's from the coast, so the rural coast, and then also Representative Pam Marsh, she's from down in Ashland, and so they've worked on some. There's a housing package and a couple other packages, and they're all in different bill numbers. One of them that's going to be up today actually is one of the little parts of the package is an ag tourism a bill that really Representative Owens was spearheading, but they've all done a little bit of work on, and that's getting a public hearing today. Representative Smith's piece of that was some industrial land development package, and so he's been working with a bunch of representatives and senators around to kind of find little projects in and around the state, and that's kind of a bill that's more just a direct appropriation. So it's not like, it doesn't turn the money over to Business Oregon to do grants. It actually, in the bill itself, funds individual projects, and so that's what I mean by appropriations. There's also a water infrastructure and drought relief package that's just coming out that Representative Owens and Representative Helm, who's the chair of the agricultural committee, they've been working on. So just starting to track that. They just announced it, and I think there's going to be some changes, but so that's something we're tracking. And then also the housing package that the governor just put out. That's another one that we're kind of tracking. There's a little bit of money for some rural areas. We kind of didn't get too much, but Representative Helfrich really worked on that. He was really one of the spearhead headers on that. So, if you guys had any questions on that, I know you guys could reach out to him. I mean, he's obviously from your area there, so y'all are real familiar with him. And so there's going to be some behavioral health funding that's going on. That's in the governor's budget. We're kind of still trying to see what that's going to look like. And then one of the bills I thought I'd mention is the one I testified on. It's Representative Smith's bill. It's just kind of the one he has some intrigue. So basically, kind of the impetus of the bill originally, Representative Smith introduced it originally in 2009. But what it is essentially is you guys have maybe experienced before, if you were to go to one of the bigger box stores, go get say a Home Depot or a Lowe's. Go there, you're doing a remodel, but when you do that, you get cabinets, carpets, what have you, all, the total project cost, all of that, you have to pay 100% upfront. So Representative Smith, probably 15 years ago or so, he went through a process like that, and it was the work wasn't done in a timely or really a professional manner, and he kind of went through arbitration, and eventually they kind of came out and said, we'll solve this problem for Representative Smith. But he was thinking to himself, well, that's well and great, but that doesn't solve the overarching problem. And so what this bill would do is it, with projects beyond a certain threshold and with general contractors that are come from publicly traded corporations, so this isn't your mom and pop little smaller contractors, it would limit them to only be able to require a payment of 50% upfront. And basically it's a consumer protection bill, and it allows the customer to withhold that 50% payment until the project's completion. So we just got some amendments in there to make sure to kind of update the project, threshold from the 2009, when Greg originally put it forward, just to kind of, mix with inflation. And then we also put a stipulation in there if the project costs change. So to make sure that the contractor has all of the money that they need if the project was to change, or if they would need to buy more materials. So we just got that amendment in, and we'll see what the chair of the committee thinks of that. That's in the Business and Labor Committee. The chair is Representative Paul Holby from Eugene. And then there's two bills that we've been kind of opposing. One of them is a kind of a data center bill, and in regards to the power that's generated. It's House Bill 2816, and kind of what our main concern with it is that it regulates the end user. So basically, it's in the legislation. It says that a data center needs to have a certain threshold of its power generated by renewable energy. But if the local co-op doesn't provide the power from that, we're working towards that. So we'll see what that bill goes. I think there'll be some more amendments that come to it. Another one is Senate Bill 85. It wants to restrict CAFOs, and what CAFOs are is they're confined animal feeding operations. So it's your large dairies and chicken farms, and so that just kind of hurts agricultural out in Rep. Smith's district. But there's actually some positive amendments coming on that as well. So a lot of amendments flying around right now, and a lot of bills flying around. But what I refer to that deadline before of March 17th, so last Friday, what that meant is if those bills didn't get scheduled, like I said, for a public hearing and a work session, that means those bills died. And so we now kind of have a comprehensive list of what bills are alive and dead. And I actually have those lists. And if anyone's interested in that, I can for sure send them. I put my name, my title, and my email and my phone number in the chat. So if anyone has any questions, or they could give me a call or email. But that was kind of the bulk of what I wanted to get to today. And then I'd love to take questions or do whatever we thought was best. But that's kind of what I had for us today.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
That was a great rundown.
Yeah, that was high velocity. That was good stuff.
Dawson, I'll speak up. And I caught parts and bits of it, but what is it that we can do? I know that Greg has such a small piece and it's always positioned weird, but I know that as chambers can support any of those things, that even if my building isn't sitting on his piece that he represents, he's still representing the people all over Oregon as our people are talking. What are some things that he can use from us? We work with Oregon State Chamber, but sometimes we don't always hear directly from our representatives and our senators what they're struggling with, what they're battling, and what kind of letters of support can we do if it's a beneficial thing to our businesses.
Yeah, well, Lisa, we could, and we could do a better job of this too, of course. One of the things that's helpful even is just a quick a letter, on a bill. You can actually, and you're probably familiar with this, but you can submit to the committee. And I know for a fact that many or most of each person on each committee, they actually go through and read that testimony. So you can just submit written testimony. And actually now with all the functions, you can also just sign up to register to testify on stuff remotely. And you can even get up there and even for just a second and just, say we support this. And you don't even have to give some elaborate testimony. I mean, you really could just get up there and just be another voice of of support. I know it's hard to think right now, especially because, you know, we're still a lot of the stuff that's passing right now is all of the non-controversial stuff. So if you were to go look at what's passing the House right now, most of it's passing like with 60 votes or unanimous or near unanimous. So we really haven't got into the contentious or the meaningful of the bills yet. Yeah, I mean, I know if Representative Smith was like, hey, we need people to testify on this,
Right.
and we need this, we'd be getting the word out. I guess maybe we could talk offline, Lisa, too, if we want to think about maybe a little more coordination. I could understand that, but right now, I mean, I can't think of anything that's. I mean, everything that we've wanted, you know, like for instance, when I testified a little bit on that data center bill I spoke about. I mean, we had so much engagement from the communities in Eastern Oregon that testified virtually and actually quite a few in-person testimonies. So,
Yeah, I saw Condon was there.
Who?
I saw Condon was there.
Yeah, that was yesterday. Yeah,
Yeah.
Kaylin was there. Yeah, I spent a good chunk of the day with Kaylin yesterday when she was testifying on Senate Bill 5524. That's Business Oregon's budget. Yeah.
So just let Greg know in some of that communications. I know that Bonham has got a hold of me and says, you know, this hasn't gone out there all over, but I'm really struggling. I really need some more support. I need more letters. You know, and we just need to do another round. Sometimes we don't know what's happening on the floor and the battle that it might be. So let us know and make sure that we know that, and then we have a legislative update that we send out to our entire membership, asking for voices. So please keep us in that loop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll let Greg know that you shared that with me as well.
Okay, thanks, Dawson.
Thank you.
So
anyone else? Go ahead, Casey.
I had a little bit of a question. If we could circle back to that part where you talked about increasing the threshold for helping consumers with their projects and how that's going to help the consumer, but it doesn't really apply to the ma and pa sort of businesses. Have you guys looked into how that might negatively impact the small businesses themselves and by extension consumers, because they are consumers themselves? I'm just like curious if that aspect was
a little bit, but Casey, what this really gets at is that this is for residential remodels or repair projects, and a lot of times with your kind of smaller contractors, you have a much more closer relationship with them. You know them, or you call them, and they get a lot of the work done in a more timely and more professional manner. At least that's been the testimony in what we've heard. So that's been that's been our experience. And so with when we were reaching out to folks, we were hearing that it was more just the larger corporations, the big corporate stores that have these that just have contractors. So that's kind of what that's about. So that's kind of what I know. If you've got more, if that's not quite the answer you're looking for, just let me know, and I can get you a better answer. But that's kind of been what that's about.
Okay, I'll send you an email, because I've got a very specific question. So I'll send you an email directly.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Dan Spots, did you have a question?
I do. Thank you. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it, and it's around the topic of affordable housing, which is, of course, a big challenge throughout the region. We've been working with the college has been having some discussions with Gilliam County about trying to build some through our construction trades program, getting students on the ground out there to gain some experience and help develop some housing in the process. Are there any rural initiatives underway that we should be aware of covering Gilliam, Sherman counties in particular, potential state funding, things like that, to help address this issue? Of course, Dave is on the line, and he's the expert on this call on this topic. But anything on the radar that we should know about?
Dan, I'd say I know two things. And I'll go find the bill and send it to you too, Dan. Like I was saying before, in that rural economic package that they're working on, I know that Rep Owens was taking the lead on what program that he's calling like R3 in regards to housing. So I'll find that bill and send it to you. And then I also know we sent in regards to, you remember that we've been discussing that child care letter that we'd sent to the governor, Dan. We also had been asking her about some other housing options for rural counties with Rep Owens and Rep Smith as well. So we've sent that on to her. But let me find that R3 bill and let me send it to you, and because that's kind of what I know in regards to housing. But not the greatest answer, Dan, but that's what I know.
No, that's cool. Thank you, Dawson.
Yep.
That conversation with Representative Owens and your outreach and Commissioner Kramer on the topic of Governor Kotek actually looking to rural counties and identifying issues out here was encouraging, very encouraging. And I think we've exchanged emails on this, but anything we can be doing to encourage Governor Kotek to come out, visit the counties, learn about our issues. And I know you're going to be all over that one. But we would definitely be standing by and ready to help logistics, coordinate, schedule, you name it. We'd love to see that happen.
Absolutely. I mean, I know she'll be doing, like I said, like we know she's doing the 36. She's going to get to all 36 county that would in her first year. And so I'm just waiting to, I know Umatilla counties and us have sent some stuff to her. And so we haven't got any idea of when she's going to be coming out, but I can, like I told you yesterday or maybe Tuesday, Dan, when she lets us know, or if she reaches out and says, hey, where we're going to be at, we'll make sure to tell her everywhere she should go. Absolutely.
So a follow-up question, if I may, regional solutions team, because our conduit to Governor Brown was always Nate Stice, and thankfully Nate Stice is back in the position of RST manager for North Central. Do you know? It's early. I mean, he was just officially back in, I think, like last week or maybe the week before. Do you have any read on how direct his conduit is going to be to the governor, or will it be the same type of structural relationship that we had under Governor Brown?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great question, Dan. That's something I don't know for sure. No,
I'm wondering. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I've wondered that too, because I didn't know he was going to be. Wasn't sure if he was going to be back. I'm really glad.
No, we weren't. None of us were. We were just delighted to have him back. That was really good news. Okay.
Yeah, I was really happy when I read that as well. I was like, oh, that's good. I don't know. I don't know exactly if Governor Kotek is going to be kind of shifting around regional solutions or what, but I know that I'm pretty sure she kept Courtney Crowell way out in Eastern Oregon and Nate. And so that's positive signs to me. And so I think we'd have to discuss that with Nate or somebody, but yeah, I don't know anything about that. Sure.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Dawson.
Of course.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. Lisa, do we want to wrap up with some final comments?
Well, first off, Dawson, do you have questions for us? You have a captive audience that is very diverse, representing the Dalles. And so this is your opportunity that you get to ask us too. It's not just one way. So I'll open that up before we go into the other.
Sure. I guess this is kind of a dumb question, but so we've got before you used to lead these meetings, Lisa, and now we've got Alex. So what's the story? What's the story behind that? So
I needed more help.
There we go.
So Alex is our new membership and business development director. We brought him on last June, the end of June, to really work with our businesses and be the feet on the ground for that piece of it. And so I needed to sometimes be gone because of other obligations and other boards and other commitments. And we felt this was a really good natural spot for Alex to slide in, hear the issues, and be able to communicate that to the businesses, but also have our businesses ask questions and giving them a room for this. And so one of the reasons we chose to stay on Zoom is that we can have speakers and representatives from all over So we're not limited just trying to meet in the little barbecue for breakfast. And this has actually kept us in touch with many different aspects. But I have given that over to Alex, even though I stay on this because I learned so much. I don't want to give it up, but it also gives me the freedom to be somewhere else for some of my meetings that do land on this day. And so that is what we have done, and he's doing a fantastic job. And so, but it keeps him plugged in to exactly what's happening. So when he has a business coming to him, he can really relay that information and help them the best way that we can as our chamber. So, hey, more people on the team is better for our community.
Yeah, of course. I think maybe one question I just asked to everybody is if anyone has plans to come down to Salem for the rest of session, if they're planning to come through the Capitol and talk to their representatives, see if they're going to see Helfrich or Bonham or anything like that. So does anybody have any plans to be down here in Salem?
Dan, did we ever finalize for the COT team besides the gorgeous night out?
No, we did not, Lisa. We likely will be coming down to visit with Senator Bonham regarding the child care issue. We've got a Zoom call set up with Senator Hansel on that one. But no date set yet. And Lisa, it is a key point. The community outreach team should have that as a strategic planning going down to Salem. Some initial discussions, and it's very, very early, about working more closely with One Gorge because they've done so much of that already. And it kind of makes sense to me anyway to partner more closely. But, you know, there's a lot of work to be done to make that happen. So wish I had a better answer for you. And I haven't had enough coffee yet. I just replied to Dave Peters with an everyone. So that's for Dave. That's not for everybody. So that's
now we know.
Well, construction. Yeah.
Dawson, is there, I know the schedule is crazy and there's all kinds of things, but is there a particular time or any of that's it's easier for somebody to come down and just visit besides just attacking an issue, actually being a part?
There's not a good time. It's just with enough heads up, I can just make sure to get you in the schedule and get a meeting with Rep Smith. If I just that 2-3 weeks notice it. Maybe 3 is probably really, really great. I mean, if it's not, we can still probably get you in, but the sooner I can know, the better, so I can make sure to get it on the calendar, get it secured. So that's why I was asking if anyone was coming down. We can make sure to get you a little meeting with Rep Smith down here.
Dan, I think we should just go.
You're right, Lisa.
We should just go.
Let's just pick a date and do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the chambers were looking at a chamber day, but I don't know if that has come and gone. Sometimes the dates that they pick, I'm a little busy.
Kaylin, I think, said she's going to be back down here on the I think she said maybe the 14th or the 10th of April for a Oregon State Chamber. Something like that. So I think she'll be back here and again about 2-3 weeks. So
all right. Well, I will look at that calendar again. So I will probably be joining them if it's possible from on this end. So I sit on the board for the Oregon State Chamber. So both Kaylin and I do.
Yeah, she did. I don't know if you saw, we saw JL Wilson yesterday. We just happened to see him, and so I know he's got some connection with the Oregon State Chamber. So I took a picture of them together.
Oh, so. Good. So no, I will look closer at that. But Dan, I think some of our COTs should just go. Yeah.
To your point, we as a college, we're represented in Salem. We have students down there. Our board members were down there. CT month was in February. So the college has that outreach, but the community outreach team, that's where we need to focus, because it's the same thing at the federal level. These issues like affordable housing, childcare that affect the entire community, those are things that we should be doing down in Salem to talk about how we work together as a team and how these issues cross jurisdictional barriers. It's not just the college, not just the chamber, not just the county, but the community as a whole. So yeah, Lisa, point taken.
Okay. We'll figure it out and give you a holler, Dawson.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to put them on the spot, but David, Brian, and Rob, you guys didn't ask me any questions. What the heck?
Well, on my part, Joel's our spokesperson for all things political, so I'm just not up on it. I do know, as you mentioned, that there's been a lot of money coming down through the state already for housing. The down payment was new, that amount anyway. We're getting other assistance for other aspects of doing, like I said, home repairs. There's talk of different ways that can be funded. Right now, the primary one we use is Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, which is a cumbersome at best program to use. The state's working on, and I don't know if there's anything presented in this session or not, but there's just a lot of help. If you do hear the term for like shared equity housing and assisting for that for home ownership, that's what our next development's going to try to be, and that's community land trust, shared equity. So support in that field would be nice, because that's what we're hopefully going to expand in. And actually, I'd like to talk, Alex, to you later. We'll schedule when I can give that presentation. I've talked about it for a year or more. So
That'd be great.
Once.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, thanks, David.
And you put me on the spot too. At the Mid-Columbia Senior Center, we're not typically politically motivated. I do kind of keep an ear going on. I pay attention closely to what's going on in Salem, especially if it has something that comes up that would affect us directly as a senior center. Personally, however, those are things that I try to keep out of the senior center, my personal viewpoints. Sure. As a nonprofit, I try to avoid these things.
Fair enough, Rob. Fair enough.
But I do want to say one thing is, and this is old news, but it steams me that you are basically covering almost all of Wasco County, except for my backyard. I mean, I'm probably 200 yards from where you cover, where I live in the southern part of the Dalles, out in the country. I mean, so it just seems like crazy the way they've run these districts. I mean, I know that it's out of your hands and it's done, but my goodness. A lot of my friends live in Duford.
The only fair thing I'll say in fairness to the maps a little bit is, they're constrained to be about 70,621 people. Given they have about a 1% threshold, they can mix. So it makes it difficult. Like, for instance, one of the things we hear is Umatilla County. They often say, we're contiguous of good size. We should be our own district. Problem is they've got 83,000 people. So that county's getting split, no matter how you do the math, because it's way above the threshold of what we're doing. So basically we took the population statistics from the 2020 census, divided the state's population by 60. That's what a House district has to have. And there's a 1% threshold we have, so we don't have to make the districts like really crazy, like cutting a house or two out of the Dalles or what have you. But I get your comments for sure. I just, in fairness to the maps a little bit, that I think that's a hard constraint to try to, slice the state up in little 70,000 people blocks. So.
Yeah, well, that would be my only personal comment. But
of course,
the Senior Center, we appreciate anytime you guys want to come by. And Representative Smith is always welcome to come by for lunch at noon. And just like we would enjoy entertaining him. So you're welcome to come by and just visit regardless of districts.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. That's awesome.
So Dawson, this is Brian. So I think one of the issues, and you probably are aware, is the whole homeless, houseless issue here. And obviously Kenny LaPointe from McCack here has done an amazing job, him and his crew, and trying to work to provide support for the houseless community, and obviously dealing with addiction issues and mental health. I think one of the issues that seems to be really on the edge there is the folks who aren't able or to take advantage of those services, who really kind of fall outside that, which is really kind of a state issue that needs to be discussed, is how to work with people who really don't participate in that program. And that's a real difficult situation and a very touchy one, because obviously, you can't force somebody to get in to get help. But yet again, these folks who maybe don't want to get help and who want to live underneath an overpass or whatever, because that's their choice, how do you resolve that? Because that's been, I think, a really, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, that's been a really huge question here, is the folks who don't participate, who maybe potentially get into issues with the law enforcement and cause some problems. what do you do with this? And I think that's the one that really needs to be touched on by the state. What do you do? And, you know, because obviously what Kenny, excuse me for going on, what Kenny LaPointe and company are doing is really a good thing. And it's going to catch a lot of folks and help them out and get them into appropriate services. But it's the other folks who don't are, I think, giving folks some real grief. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does actually make sense. I'm really glad you mentioned that, Brian. A lot of this crosses over with behavioral health and behavioral health funding. Obviously with houselessness, you know, response as well. But and so in that, like I mentioned earlier, Greg, Representative Smith's kind of tracking some of this behavioral health money that's going to be in the governor's budget, and actually he's going to have a little breakdown on Monday of a meeting. So I think that should give us kind of a sense, because that's where a lot of the, you know, some of the what you're referring to, that's where some of that funding could possibly be taken care of, is through a little bit of that behavioral health aspects. So I think it will be interesting to see kind of what comes of the governor's behavioral health funding. So
yeah, and I think it has to be on a state level to deal with this, because there's a lot of legal ramifications to this, you know. But if you don't deal with that, I think that's still going to continue. I mean, in talking with people in town, I mean, there's a lot of angst to what's happening, you know, and trying to figure this out. And I think this is such a huge problem. It's going to take some folks at the highest level to kind of sort of sort this out and help the local communities.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
Well, Dawson, I would piggyback on the backside of that. I have friends who are business owners in the Dalles, for example, and I mean, they'll have a person who is quote unquote homeless or whatever their choice is. They'll steal something from them, and then they'll get caught a day later, and they'll be in Norcor, which is our local, you know, Norcor, our prison, are basically for, you know, maybe 36 hours, and they'll be back out, and they'll steal the same thing again, and they'll find it down under the bridge by Mill Creek, and then they'll arrest them again. And I mean, they're not even punishing or able to keep people in long enough to make them stop doing the same crime over and over again. Does law enforcement, is there ways that we can get law enforcement a little more control of this? It feels like there's no control for law enforcement. They almost have their hands tied. Do you see that up in the counties that you're in too?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was alluding to. So yeah, Representative Smith, he talks about this a lot of his law enforcement say, essentially, I mean, you're referring to actual crimes, but there's also this idea, and I think Brian kind of alluded to it, these people that they're in crisis, they really are, but they're not doing anything theoretically to break the law. So there's a lot of people that can't be held, but they need to be. So that's kind of what I'm kind of alluding to in this behavioral health sphere. I'm just not I'm not up on a lot of the literature and into technical terms, so I don't want to offend or go, you know, or say something like that. So that's why I'm kind of dancing around this a little bit, but so I apologize for that. But that's kind of what we've been alluding to, is that a lot of this, there's a lot of this crossover these days. They've kind of, here at the Capitol, they refer to a lot of this as like behavioral health, but it's this it's, you know, all tied into this like homeless response and behavioral health. And so I think we're moving in a positive direction, but you're right, they need to be some coordination with law enforcement. And so I know that's what Representative Smith's kind of a big advocate for, and I think he's actually having a call, I think, later today, hopefully. I don't know what his schedule, if it's going to shift around or not, but with one of the chiefs of police in his district, and he kind of always in these calls gets a little, make sure to remind Rep Smith kind of what's going on from a law enforcement perspective. And so I think Rep Smith's right there with you, Rob.
Yeah, well, I could go on, and again, that's not the Mid-Columbia Senior Center's viewpoint, it's me.
Of course.
But you know, these things are happening. I mean, my brother-in-law had a problem at his plant. A friend of mine who owns a garage had his pickup stolen, and the guy was only in jail for 24 hours, and he was back out doing it again. Just those kind of things. I'm sure that the Representative Smith is aware of them, but I just wanted to emphasize it's a concern for me.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Rob. And then it looks like, Dan, you got your hand up?
Yeah, just to emphasize that same point, and this was I learned of the urgency of this issue, particularly funding for mental health counseling and building out that counselor workforce to help. Years ago, a conversation with one of our school superintendents who noted at the youth, middle school, grade school, it starts at that level. And if we don't figure it out, then it just grows and grows. And it's not a short-term solution, but a long-term thing to keep in mind for everybody. Relocation of MCMC to Kramer Field includes development of additional behavioral health facilities there. And it's one of the reasons we need to be looking at that project, making that project happen. It's not going to be right away. There's a lot of things that have to take place. But the hospital is working hand in glove with the college and with the city. And, we'll see where that goes. But there are some initiatives, but in the meantime, getting those training funds out so we can build out that workforce and have those counselors available right across the spectrum of society. It's hitting every level.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. Yeah, absolutely. So are we wrapping up, Alex?
Yeah, let's wrap up. That was a good session. I'm just closing on some notes. I got about 5 pages of notes out of this. But that was a great last run. Lisa,
can I say something really quick, Alex?
Yep, please.
I just wanted to say I know you guys would have all preferred Representative Smith, but I really appreciated being able to talk with you guys and really appreciated your questions. So I just really appreciated having the opportunity and being here. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your time as well. It's
on that point, I'd much rather be talking with staffers to elected representatives than the elected representatives. The staffers are the ones who actually know what's going on. So don't tell Representative Smith I said that, but that's the inside on this. Okay.
Dawson, you're welcome anytime. We'll just won't tell Greg all of that. So, but to that, Alex, I have just a couple announcements. As you know, we have Cherry Festival coming in April 21 through 23. You also know it is a very big event. It needs the entire community to be able to make this work. I put stuff in the chat earlier that has a link to the site, but on there we need different things. Some of those are sponsors, some of those are applications, and that all of those different parts and pieces, that's where it's going to live on that page. You can also find a link to the Northwest Cherry Festival on our front page, thedallschamber.com. We try to make it so that you can find it, but I'm going to be upfront with you guys. We need sponsors. We're short. So we're having to look and weigh out if we can have specific events that are going to take place because we don't have sponsors for those yet. And I know that this is a high need time for many of our nonprofits. And so it's what the community can give. So we're going to have to reassess if I don't have some within the next week or two. So by the 1st of April, I have to make some hardcore decisions. But if you know somebody who really this means something to them, it's important to them, we can go down to as small as I think there's a 300 level for sponsorship. But if we have a few of those, that gets us a little bit closer. So, but we've got things lined up, entertainment, everything that we did last year, we're trying to do again. So just know that that's happening. And this does bring in outside visitors and helps fill up our buckets for our businesses, both that are in the festival, but also our brick and mortar. So it is an essential event for our economy. So with that, we have tons of other things happening. tdcommunitycalendar.com is going to take you right to our community calendar, which is loaded. I challenge you. There's no way you can get everything done on there. So our community rocks when it comes to those different things. So, but check out the categories. We've added and beefed it up a little bit, and then know that if you want to put that on your website, it is embeddable. So then we all have the same community calendar and people can put their events on it no matter whose website is hosting it. So it does make it easy and simple and all there. So help me spread the word of all those good things and keeping people informed of what the great things there are to do in our community. That was it.
Thanks, Lisa. All right, guys, it is 7:56. Let's adjourn. Dawson, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for attending. Appreciate it, guys.